everybody. How are we all? This is so cool. There's some new faces in the audience tonight, which is fantastic. So my name is Blaise, if I haven't had a chance to say hi. Welcome to Busybirds, number 23 in terms of open mic night. I have a list of 11 people to read, so we're going to give each person 5 minutes tonight, a little bit more than normal. Obviously, if you're in the middle of a sentence or a paragraph, doesn't mean you have to stop right there. You can read to the end of it. And I won't necessarily read in the order. I have one person who wants to read last. Is that still Angus? Yeah. Because he's waiting for someone. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, so we have a special door prize tonight, which is autobiography by Joffa. I don't know if everyone knows who Joffa is. He's part of the Collingwood Cheers squad, and he's a little bit of a personality, but also someone with an amazing backstory, if you like. We have a signed copy to give away tonight. We actually had the launch of this last Thursday night at Trades Hall in Carlton, because we knew we wouldn't be able to fit everyone in here. We had 100 people, and it was amazing, really fantastic, our best launch ever. So you missed out. You didn't come. So, I'm going to start with Doe. Doe's going to read a story called...
Isn't my name on top of that list?
Yes. Ordinary Combustibles. Now, if you don't know, Bo is actually running page 17, so I'm sure you're going to tell us a little bit about that.
I'll mention it.
Cool. Thanks, Bo.
Hello everyone. Yep. And before I do get started, yes, so page 17 is, I do it in conjunction with Busybird, and what page 17 is it's a collection of short stories, poetry, and other bits and bobs non-fiction articles that we release as an annual periodical every year. It functions to showcase new writers and writers who may not necessarily have much of a pedigree behind them in terms of a long publication history. So we're really determined to try and get new writers a foot in the door, a place to exhibit their work, and something that can really celebrate new writing. We are taking submissions right now, and I think it's another 2-3 weeks on the submission window. So check out the information on busybird.com.au, or go to our Facebook page. We're posting on there regularly. But yeah, if you've got something that you'd like to put in for consideration, check out the information online and page 17. And anyway, this is me, Ordinary Combustibles. Paul Newhart died an arsonist. It had just been under 2 years since he'd lit anything more than a cigarette or a birthday candle, but those were 2 years dedicated to preserving the concept of Paul Newhart, the man who tried to burn down a local church and failed. The only time he'd ever talked about why, around the time he was convicted, he'd only ever whittled down to one word: arrogance. That was the word he always used, and was never clear on what he meant by it. The arrogance of the clergy antagonising him, or his own arrogance leading him to sin, for all anyone could make sense of. Maybe he just hated the stained glass windows. Matt Newhart was 3 years older than Paul and had about as much an idea of his little brother's motivations as anyone else reading about the attempted arson in the local paper. Trying to defend his brother, first with anyone within reach and later with an open letter in the same paper, hadn't changed a whole community's worth of commentators, tut-tutting about the cruel and twisted world we lived in, using Paul's face as shorthand. Paul Newhart, the maybe arrogant black sheep. Paul Newhart, shining star in youth, only to be soot-stained by lowered expectations as the years had dragged on, and he swapped educated optimism for the kind of defeated frustration he called being pragmatic. He kept all his old school books, said Matt, holding up a pile of dog-eared binder books. English, music, Indonesian. There was a whole milk crate full of them. I don't think I have any of my own left. You know Polly, said Jay, brother number 3, as he shook the coffee table to test how much it wobbled on its old IKEA legs. Never threw a thing out. He wanted to burn things, he could have started with half the crap here. There was a dissatisfied grunt from the kitchen. Their mother, Yvonne, hadn't intended for her boys to hear it, but it was her way in the place, I don't know. Yvonne didn't even look back at her eldest son. They get Jay to help you take it out to the lawn, he can break it down, do what you want. Her voice crackled with agitation. Even winning the lottery would make her edgier right now. Matt took the hollow victory and started emptying out the one solid shelf of its photos and cramped paraphernalia. A bunch of frames, a small bundle of 50ml bottles of liqueur, a figurine of a phoenix. Paul had always loved the flames, playing with it or admiring it. There were only a few photos of Cecilia, wrapped up in her vaguely sun-toned hair and always looking away from the camera. How long ago was it? A few months before the arson, so maybe close to 3 years. A long time to nurse a burnt-out ember. Matt gathered the photos and threw them roughly into a box next to his feet. He heard a crack. Maybe he should have been gentle with the frames, but it barely seemed to matter. Paul was dead and Cecilia had cast herself into the winds. I'll leave it there.
I forgot to actually mention the drawing exhibition on at the moment by Chloe Nashon. They're obviously all for sale, so feel free to have a look, and if you have any questions, come up and have a chat. Joan is going to read some poetry. Come on up.
Perhaps I'm really in my second childhood. Oh, my glasses. Yes, I must be. But if you can bear with me, I have a few children's poems which I've written. The first one was really a little bit like tonight. Coming home. Driving home in the car, cosy and warm through the storm. Wipers pierce the beads of curtained rain again and again. Fierce black traffic beasts beam to the skies, their blinding eyes. Bright traffic lights drip red and green streaks into road creeks. Tyres spurt and splash, zigzag and swerve round the curve. Huge shadowy limbs of trees in the park grasp at the dark. Warm milk by the fire, safe from the blast, home at last. Will I really, truly burst? When I had finished tea tonight, I had an awful thirst. Mum said, "Now don't you drink too much, or you will surely burst." I've only got a little skin, and it fits perfectly. I wonder if I eat too much, will it still stretch round me? If my insides grow bigger, will my skin get there first? If I keep on eating dinner, will I really truly burst? The lizard. Have you ever said good morning to a lizard in the sun? Have you ever seen him snoozing, unaware of anyone? Have you seen his short, squat legs and his long and scaly tail? Have you watched him show the frill of his shiny coat of mail? Did you notice how he blended with the grass and ground until he was almost lost to sight, playing dead while lying still? Well, I said good morning.
Perfectly
So that's
timed.
very nice.
Well timed. Lisa. I forgot to mention too that Kevy's videoing everyone's readings, and it will go up onto YouTube hopefully later. It's usually sort of around the end of the week. So if you don't want to be on YouTube, please let us know. Lisa's going to read a story called Charade, or Charade, however you want to pronounce that.
several years since I've read out. So, Patrick captains his SUV and appears invincible. I stare through the windscreen from the passenger seat. The cars around us are a blur of metallic reds and silvers. The black bonnet stretches on for an eternity until the huge drop to the road beyond its lip. As we speed along, the asphalt is sucked away underneath. My painted smile keeps lifted at the corners. The wind through the rolled-down window dances my hair around my face. The morning summer sun drunkenly embraces my shoulders. To appreciate having been picked up from home to go to work would have been pleasurable if the lift had been from someone else other than my boss. Patrick accelerates. The cars going to the city are bumper to bumper, but we are free. Through the veil of my fringe, I spy him watching this traffic also. Those poor suckers. He has the grin of a wolf. Soon I'll be driving past him every day. He raises his hand and acknowledges his people with a royal wave. I poke his forearm. Don't be so full of yourself. My voice is full of forced brightness. He drops his hand, but the grin remains. I'm not used to him smiling, but he's happy. Well, sadistically happy. His joy is at the cost of everyone's misery, and he wants to bring everyone down with him, while keeping me safe. He sits up straight and his arm rests upon the window ledge. I picture his blue eyes sparkling behind dark shades. I know he believes he's on top of the world, but really he's just running away and he wants me to run with him. By early afternoon, I'm working from the clinic's kitchen, surrounded by laptops and iPhones, both his and mine. I spend most of my days writing his emails, answering his phone calls, and doing his paperwork. This means his time. As the state manager, I can picture the hurt and confusion hindering his face. It's not his fault. I've been telling him I'm fine, but then dismiss him. The silence extends the space between us. Oh, wait. Then Patrick's physically gone, but the atmosphere remains tense. My guilt mingles with resentment. It's not fair to treat him this way, but I can't jump from giving him the silent treatment to being best friends. Our relationship is built on ignoring personal issues between us. We need to present a united front to the rest of his subordinates, while the suitcase enclosing my disenhancements is ripping apart. The silent treatment was a way of unzipping that suitcase and protect myself from my work spouse. Early last week, Patrick accepted a new job, and I'm the only one who knows. He had to tell his boss that day and thought he could leave then and there. If he called, he'd be at work the next day. If he emailed me privately, it was all over. He gave me 48 hours and then teased me out of my dark corner by saying he had to give notice. And so I went back to him, and back to the normality of ignoring the elephants, and the normality of respecting each other's space for a little while, and then moving on like nothing happened. But this time it's different. Patrick put me forward for a call centre management role at his new work, and I have an interview next week. But I'm not that keen on the job. I like reception work, so I can just stay put. I'll go through the interview, but I'm accepting he will be gone soon and I won't follow. He promised to look after me no matter where he goes, so he'll still be my friend, won't he? He'll still look after me if I don't follow him, won't he? Right? Thank you. See you next month.
Thanks, Lisa. Richard Trember. There's two Richards here tonight. Richard is going to read a poem called The Tree on Gibbet. Is it Gibbet or Gibbet? Gibbet Hill.
About 30 years ago in Tasmania, I met a tree that was inhabited by a ghost, and that gave rise to this. On a hill beside the main Hobart Road, 20 kilometres south of Launceston, stands a lone tree. It was on this tree that during the days when Tasmania was a penal colony in the early 1800s, the bodies of executed criminals were hung as a deterrent to passers-by. The tree on Gibbet Hill. Beneath your dying splintered boughs, midst rocks the horses graze. Your broken, withered limbs give not a hint of earlier days. Days when you bore your dreadful fruit, when human life you craved, when taunted, hell-bound sinners you denied the very grave. The days when you defiant stood a warning to the land of mankind's inhumanity and death's swift icy hand. The ghost of one such tortured soul, they say, lurks with you still, and curses those who scorn the dead who hung on Gibbet Hill. But time is past, men's ways are changed, and your dread days are o'er. You stand a broken monument to times that are no more. Perhaps when your time comes and you return unto the earth, your passing will release the souls and grant them second birth. The highwayman, the murderer, the fool, the thief, the cheat, who rotted on your boughs denied the sinner's crimson sheet, denied in death the dignity of but a pauper's hold. Perhaps your death at last will grant repose unto his soul. And you will be a legend, voiceless, lingering in the night, with no man left to tell your tale and naught to mark your sight. The land shall know tranquility, the lost soul's voice be still, as horses yet unborn graze midst the rocks on Gibbet Hill.
Thanks, Richard. Richard number 2. Richard's going to read a story called Train Ride.
Hello. Evacuation. As a little boy, I lived in London with my mother, my father, and quite a bit older sister. It's a few days before World War II breaks out. Evacuation. And I've snipped this out quite a longer bit, so I hope I'm going to make the 5-minute deadline. Wherever you look, there are people pushing and shoving, kids in prams, some being carried, some tugging along behind, all escaping the war, all confused. There are cases, bags and teachers. It looks as though the whole world is on the move, and it looks like the whole world is after a seat on our train. But Dad's found a compartment with a soldier smarting in his uniform and polished boots. And he's going to give up his seat, and a sailor who doesn't mind standing either. Stand a row tall, he says. But no, now they just want to squabble over giving up the seat for my sister with her bouncy hair and pretty green eyes. I think I'll squeeze in beside Mum if a man as big as an elephant pushes up a bit. Please, sir, I think you've taken a bit of my seat. Dad's lifting our smaller cases onto the luggage rack, but the larger ones go in the corridor. They're making him puff, my Dad. Look after yourselves, he's saying, with the carriage door slammed shut, and him on the platform. His silvery hair is all ruffled, and his face looks tired. There's a steak and kidney pie in the larder, Mum tells him through the window, but he doesn't seem to hear in the commotion, and she has to say it again, only louder. Everyone looks up at the idea of Dad's dinner in the larder. The steak and kidney pie that needs warming up, regular 5, the instructions are on the kitchen table. Mum has a hanky to her face now. On the table, she repeats, on the kitchen table. Mum's voice trails off. It's getting too much. The hanky is damp with tears already. It's just a little bit of coal dust, Mum insists. Just coal dust. Ingy wishes that we didn't have to say goodbye. I'm looking forward to the train ride, but I don't want to leave Dad behind. The soldier and sailor have left their loved ones already. It were painful, the soldier tells us. The sailor said goodbye to his mum in a place called Broadstairs in Kent. His mum cried a lot, getting smaller and smaller, and then it's lost altogether in the crowd. and I'm just left with a picture of my head to take to Auntie's. Well, at least we left on time. A chilly little man tucked away in the corner is holding up a book. A timetable book of train times is what he calls it. Everyone stops and looks at him. But the train is gathering speed now. Clickety-tack, clickety-clack. I didn't know trains made that noise, and I thought I'd do the same time I played with my model trains. Clickety-clacking. If there is a next time, the war might stop nice things like that. Nobody has said. Now we're speeding past grimy buildings with tall chimneys trailing smoke across the people, heads down, going about their work, getting ready for war. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Then our first glimpse of the countryside, fields full of golden corn sliced up by green hedgerows. A patchwork, says a man with a tweed cap and smart jacket. The soldier tells us it's worth fighting for. This country of ours, and the sailor says, we won't let Hitler know so much as a sniff of it. The man with the tweed cap seems to like this and gives a here, here. That's a coincidence, Mum says. My boy's name is Richard and makes me stand up and introduce myself. And I say, my name's Richard, which they know already because Mum just told them. And everyone in the carriage is smiling and looking away because my face is turning red. Tweed cap reads his paper, The Times. I'm going to read one last line. We're arriving at Reading. Now the train comes to a stop with a jolt while something called mayhem breaks out, with people fighting to get into our carriage and others fighting to get out. Then we're off again, bang on time. Next stop, Newbury, the nearest station to Auntie. Just as I said, the timetable man tells us, bang on time. I hope she has the kettle on, says Mum, who still has got a bit of coal duster in her eye.
Thanks, Richard. I wanted to mention another book that we published, which is a little kids book. How cute are they? This is actually our first dual language book, bilingual book. It's Afrikaans and English. It actually came about through, we did a possible campaign to raise the money to publish it, and all proceeds from the sales of the book go back to the cheetah experience in South Africa, where they're building a clinic to help the endangered animals. So we are actually going to be launching that here on Sunday the 28th of June at 3 o'clock, so you're all welcome to come. But feel free to have a look at the book anyway if you can't make it. And obviously we'll have it for sale here if anyone is interested. But it's a really cute little story. Faith is a little cheetah who had meningitis as a cub, and consequently her tail is all curled up, which means she can't run properly so she's disabled. So when she runs, she just sort of runs and goes like that. So she's quite cute, so that's a bit partial to this little book. Okay, Coral is going to read one of her travel stories. We haven't had one for a while. I need to wear my glasses. Is it Skifton Castle? Skifton Castle. Come on up.
I went to Skipton when I was in England a couple of years ago. It's in Yorkshire, and it's got this massive castle just sitting there in this market town. So I absolutely had to have a look. Across a beautifully manicured lawn, ahead of me between two huge towers, are steps leading up to the entrance to the stronghold. In Norman days, visitors would have crossed a bridge over a moat to get this far. I so wish the moat was still here. A metre-thick archway leads me into a stone-paved courtyard. The swirling shape of a yew tree planted by Lady Clifford in 1659 holds pride of place in the centre. The castle rises all around me. Stone steps twist away and disappear enticingly behind dark doors. Ahead is a wall of gabled mullioned windows separated by a door above which is carved the arms of John Clifford, 9th Lord of Skipton. The beast supporting the shields of wyverns, half dragon, half sea serpent. The male servants cooked and served the food, which, as far as I'm concerned, is an excellent rule, and wonder why it ever changed. In an alcove jutting from the outside wall is a guardrail, in our language, the loo. Very efficiently placed, as the material being disposed of dropped straight through the hole into the stream below. That must have added to the already diverse odours of the kitchen. Next to it was a chute which discharged kitchen waste in the same way. Having just been to York, I feel like I'm a bit of an expert on medieval trappings. The Great Hall was typical at the time, and it brings back the memory of a movie from the past. James Robertson Justice as King Henry, chucking bones from his roast pig over his shoulder for the dogs. Wooden beams support the vaulted ceiling, and the fireplace is enormous. It's here that Lord and Lady Clifford entertained their guests and retainers, usually at lunchtime. After this, the room was used for business and entertainment, and often at the end of the day as sleeping quarters for the servants and the dogs. I passed through the withdrawing room, where the ladies occupied their time in needlework, and the day room, where his lordship also conducted business. It's empty now, but in the 16th century he would have been surrounded by wall tapestries, enormous log fires and richly carved furniture. The dungeon was created by Henry Clifford, the 10th Lord. Steps lead down to a narrow passageway into a dark and stuffy prison, not somewhere I'd choose for a holiday. Leg irons were used here, but never torture, and one man in particular wasn't keen to move on. At his trial in York, he said he'd never been so well fed as when in the care of Lord Clifford. It's very relaxed here, and there seem to be no rules. A few children run wild around the tiny worn staircases. There are no signs forbidding entrance to any of the spaces, or reminding us to be careful not to fall over, just in case we needed the warning. I wander through wine and beer cellars and a curing room used for preserving meatstuffs. Fighting chambers are complete with squints, windows through which archers fired on anyone who breached the drawbridge and the gate and found themselves trapped in the courtyard. I have an 8-year-old grandson who's besotted with castles and dragons. I wish he was here exploring with me. This is definitely the postcard I'll be sending him.
Thanks, Coral. Coral is collecting her travel stories together, and hopefully we'll see them in an e-book soon. Yeah? What I forget to mention too is if anyone has published books or anything that they'd like to sell, bring them along and tell people about them. I'm sure people would love to buy a book off you, because it's pretty cool buying a book from someone that you've met and you've heard read and stuff like that. And it's also good to, any person who's ever published a book should always have a couple of copies in their bag so that you can sell them when you tell people about it. Speaking of someone who's been published, Rebecca's going to read a story now. Where's Rebecca? Up the back. Rebecca has had a short story published in an anthology called Short and Scary, and Rebecca has some for sale if anyone would like to buy. Thank you.
Gone fishing. Waves lap against the old jetty. Dad lowers himself into the canoe, and we push off. After 20 minutes paddling, Dad stops. This'll do us, I reckon. We don't want to go too far out in case the wind gets up. He baits my line and hands it to me. Dad has never taken me out on the lake before. He always said it was too dangerous. Never know when the wind will get up, he says. Suddenly there's a tug at my line. I've got one, I say. Dad leans forward to help, nice and easy. Bit by bit, I wind in the line until the fish surfaces. Dad is quick with the net and scoops it into the canoe. Wow, she's a beauty. She's a whopper. At that moment, the sun dips below the horizon. I look up. Dad, I say, I can hardly see the jetty. It's so far away. We'd better get back. We pack away the lines and turn the canoe for home. I dip my paddle in the water and pull in time with Dad, but nothing happens, or worse than nothing, we keep drifting in the other direction. Must be the wind, Dad says, and pulls harder. For 5 minutes we paddle furiously, but it's no use. We still are drifting the other way. Can't do it, Dad. We'll have to head straight to shore, then hug the coast. A bit further, but not to worry. We turn for the shore, but now we're just drifting sideways. Paddle harder, Dad yells. But I'm paddling as hard as I can. My arms and shoulders are burning. I stop, Dad stops too, and the canoe swivels to face the way it is drifting. Right towards a stretch of land jutting out into the lake. I can see the tea tree and the pink of pig-faced flowers. Reeds grow at the water's edge. The canoe drifts ever closer and then noses in and nudges the shore. Might as well stretch our legs, Dad says. I clamber over the front and hold the canoe for Dad. He looks around and rubs his hands together. Good thing you caught that fish. We'll cook it up and head back when the wind drops. I nod. There is no wind. I push in among the tea tree, looking for wood for the fire. There's a crack. It sounds like a gunshot. Dad! I run back out. What was that? He laughed. Bet you stood on a stick. The fish cooks quickly on the coals, and we pick over it with our feet over to my feet. Dad! What? He pushes back through the undergrowth. I was just washing my hands in the lake. You should go too. I shake my head. I'm not going anywhere. A cry rises from the bush. What was that? Just a curlew, you know, type of water bird. He pats the ground next to him and I shuffle over. Behind me, there's a moan. I twist my head, but see only darkness. Just the tea trees rubbing against each other, Dad says. There's another crack and then the sound of running. It's like I can feel it in the earth, a trembling. I jump to my feet. Wallabies, Dad says. I feel silly and sit apart from him. I'll show him I'm not afraid. And a great crying starts up, far away and then closer and then all around. I press against Dad's body. Black cockatoos, he's saying, as the crying fades. Then there is a sound like a man sobbing. Lyrebird, Dad says, and I know for sure he's lying. They imitate sounds, he says. Sure, but they live in the mountains, not here. Finally the sobbing fades and there is silence. I think the wind has dropped, Dad says. What wind? I follow him back to the canoe and we push off from the shore. We can see a light and we head towards it. Our progress effortless, and within half an hour we're at the jetty. The light is the lantern of an old fisherman. Out late, he says. Headwind, Dad grunts. The old man nods. Got taken to the point, eh? He juts his chin out into the darkness. Dead man's finger. Is that what it's called? I whisper. Fisherman smiles. Get frightened, you son. Crazy old black fellow lived out there. Used to say his people were murdered. Used to cry like a baby. Silly old coot. Fisherman sniffs. He died years ago. There's nothing living out there now, except a lot of birds, they say.
Thanks, Rebecca. Susanna. Who's Susanna? Oh, she just walked out the back. Gosh, you can't escape. Susanna's going to read a short story called Our Eyes Towards Memories from her newly published anthology from her writing group at Milparn Library. Welcome.
We are on the train together. I laugh until my cheeks hurt and my stomach is exhausted, and then I keep laughing still. Because you make The Exorcist hilarious, and you make Chucky running around pumping the air with a knife look hysterical. You have a knack of making horror movies comedies with your Jerry Lewis antics. I'm enthralled, and I don't even notice or care if anyone else is in the carriage. You talk loud, and I laugh louder. We get off and inhale the air from the secluded beach. We stroll through a deserted park towards it, and on the way, the invisible gale animates a high audience of gum leaves to sway and bow and applaud our passing. Arriving along the flat, open beach, we get pushed so hard by the fierce nautical wind that gravity changes and our feet hardly touch the ground as we run and run in elation, and our bubbly bubbles of laughter peel up to the infinite sky. We go to the jagged rocks on the shoreline and watch giant waves roll and crash just below us. The waves' roar is deafening, so we roar loud too. We scream but can't be heard over the sheer din of the furious sea. The wind thrashes and bites with its cold, but our exhilaration makes that a superficial phenomenon. We find a crevice tucked away from the raging wind and watch its chaos whip and fold the ocean and make millions of granules of sand flee in whirling frenzies. And we serenade each other with improvised haiku. My favourite? Then I look at you, spiralling in crystal blue. See my heart? It soars. Your favourite? No matter the wind, an immovable mountain my heart is for you. Our eyes hoard these memories. Our prefrontal cortex doesn't know what the all-knowing knows because it can only orchestrate dreams and hope and poetry. But the reptilian complex, that deep, dark part of our brain that always scans for danger and terror, it knows what the all-knowing knows. And what the all-knowing knows is that the cosmic Mack truck is hurtling towards us, faster than supersonic speed, but just under the speed of light. And it will collide with such force that our subatomic nucleus will split. And you and I will be shattered across opposite ends of this endless universe. And when a tremor convulses through me, will you feel a ripple at superluminal speed? Will you instantaneously twist when I contort? I will barely survive the impact, and I will forever be picking up the pieces. And I will be left with a question that will be carried through countless dark moments littered along this life. Will you survive? We are back on the train. You pass me a note, and I look through the carriage window just as the clouds part, and God's dazzling, fearless eye is smiling down on us. And I read what you have written for me. My hair is red, but I feel lemon yellow bright. My consort, listen. We run as fast as the wind, yelling and exploding with energy.
I just wanted to mention a weekend writing retreat that Blaise and I are running. It's in October at a gorgeous place up in Kinglake called Karma Kinglake. And there are some little flyers up there. But for anyone who's wanting to write life stories or their memoir or family stories even, it's a perfect way for you to sort of get started with that. So, or if you want to ask me any questions, feel free to. Susie is going to do a performance called Scandals. Welcome.
I'm part of the writers group with Susanna, and we both published in that anthology that she had, and I just love her writing. Now, I also am part of an autobiographical group, and they're mad enough to let me run it, which is a total strange, but that means that by default I have to write my own autobiography. And I forgot to bring it with me, so we are now doing an impromptu piece. So how to help you. Okay, so here we go. I was about 40, and George, my son, was about 70 when I got the job in Scandals Candles in Warrandyte. It was my job to paint the candles, and it was the guy's job to carve the candles. And myself and Debbie would take these little tiny carved candles and we would paint the little eyes and the little wings, and we would put them in lines, and we would damn well make a factory production out of art, and it would go off to all the little shops where all the tourists would go, oh, that's so cute, and if I give them this present, they can actually burn it if they don't like it, and that would be just... So, one day they discovered that I could actually carve candles. Not just carve candles, but carve the shapes in the first place, and I could give them some new moulds. And one day, my manager called me in with a very severe voice. Susan, would you mind coming into the office? I just knew that that was going to be trouble. You just know that voice, don't you? So I went into the office and I sat down very nice and meek, and I looked at him and I said, yes, George, what can I do for you? And his name was George too, it's just a coincidence. And what can I do? He said, there's been something I've been wanting to talk to you about. And I went, oh shit, I'm out of here, I can just tell. He said, we're starting a new range. We thought we'd, and he would look at me, we thought we'd do exotic candles. Exotic? We thought we'd do erotic candles. Excuse me, are we talking penises here? So I spent the next 5 minutes talking to my boss about size, shape, colour. And when I went back out, Debbie goes to me, so, what do you want to talk to you about? And I went, you just will not believe it. I said, when we finish, I'll come back to your place and have a cup of coffee. So I went back to her place, and we're out on the back patio, and it's nice. We're looking at the gum trees, and she's got all these little candles, not candles, what do you call it? Lanterns, little lanterns hanging around. And she's got these little lanterns there, and I'm sitting there, and we forget the coffee, we were on the wine. And she said, well, you're going to tell me? So I did. And she went, no! And he's so shy. And then she said, send the offer to model it for you. No, it's a job, yeah, right. The very next day, I'm in the office, and I said to her, hold this. I've handed her a candle. So she's holding this candle. And I've got this clay. And I'm modelling the hand that's holding the penis. Now what really got me was the fact that everybody accepted, just like that I needed someone to model the hand for me, and nobody asked me. I found out later on that they assumed it was my husband, and they went, oh wow! Lucky her. But nobody said it. In fact, I just have a very good memory. So, and you're there dipping candles in this really hot wax, and it's 40 degrees outside, and it's about 140 degrees inside. On this particular day, it was just Debbie and me, and we're together, and it's so hot, I said, I've had this. Off came the top. So I'm there in my shorts and my bra and my big thick apron, and so she, because she thinks that's a good idea. And we're dipping penises. And as I've got this row of penises there, she's dipping them, and I'm going to finish the story, so you can wait. She's getting the flesh colour, and I'm painting the fingernails. And then I'm kissing them. And as I'm halfway through my 25th candle, the door opens and this young man walks in delivering the candle. Because I knew you wouldn't believe me.
Do people actually buy these candles?
Well, apparently, yes.
You couldn't stop them.
And I actually have a photograph here of one that's got the lipstick on it and it's got the nail varnish, but I didn't manage to keep one of those. So I have a checkered past.
Now I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh yes, we some may or may not know, but we have created a Busybird Creative Fellowship that is going to be open. Did we decide 1st of October, Les? I think I'll double check the dates, but it's going to be open for people to apply. So it's open to any art form, not just writing. But, so you can apply for our Creative Fellowship. It is a mixture of cash and mentorship and a few other things. So keep your eyes out for that. We do have a mailing list up on the table. So if you want to be on our mailing list for our newsletter to find out about things like that, please make sure you have your name on the list. We don't inundate you with lots of emails, we just send out a monthly newsletter and maybe a reminder about open mic night or something like that. So, Angus, come on up. Angus is going to read a monologue.
Hey guys, so I'm Angus. I'm currently writing a book called Represent. It's a fantasy novel. I'm doing really well, got a lot of support as you guys can see here, so thanks for coming out. Tonight I decided that I'm actually trying to finish my piece, so this is a shorter monologue. Not a lot of background information, but the decision is about to be made, so you need to just, a bit of an intense situation. You asked me to speak slow and clear, so tell me, you sitting there, do you remember that feeling when we were young? Do you remember what it was like to be strong and full of faith, like you were the layer of the bricks which would seal your fate? Or do you remember that time when you wanted to watch the world burn? Don't say you never wanted this, because I know you did. Why? Because I also did. I remember the times we were fearless, wild and ignorant. But it was a good type of ignorance, a damn good thing which I'll always remember. Now, I'm frail and weak, vulnerable and afraid. I can barely find the strength in myself to stand on my own 2 feet. But I remember what you once told me, what uplifted me and sent me on my journey. You said, in any matter of the mind or soul, in any worldly endeavour, I would rather climb and fall than never stand in the first place. So come stand with me, come climb with me. It's what we're here for, it's what we need. And if we fall, then we'll fall together. I've got to do this, and you've got to come with me. I can't do it without you. And even if I could, I wouldn't. It wouldn't be worth it. So here I am, standing before you. I want you, I need you to come. I need you to remember those days where a flame lived inside of you, and all you could think of was making it grow into something larger than yourself. Let's relight that flame, and let's do it together, please. Don't listen to their whispers and their tainted words. This isn't giving up, it's letting go. Have no fear, for there is no reason to. Here are words of mine to uplift you this time that you escaped, and will always crawl back. The only true way to become fearless is to know falling isn't that bad. So tell me, you sitting there, do you remember that fire? Do you remember what it was like? Will you rise with me one last time? Let us climb and risk it all. In the end, I'm probably going to have some regrets, but they won't outshine my attempts.
I was just thinking that every time everyone gets up every month, everyone's reading is getting more and more confident. It's fantastic to see. Well done. So that's it for the readings. Yes, we're going to do the draw prize now. So get out your tickets. you. So, Joffa's book is out now, and it is for sale for $25 if anyone's interested. It's going to make a great Father's Day present. A lot of people buying it, even if they're not Collingwood supporters. It's actually a really great story about football and community and stuff like that. And Joffa does a lot of work with lots of different charities as well. So it's a really interesting story. So, did everyone get a raffle ticket when they came in? Yell out if you didn't get one. Let me mix them up. A005.
Oh, yes.
Have a look. So thanks everyone. Feel free to hang around and have tea or coffee or more wine, supper, and have a chat to everyone. Thanks for coming.
He's going to